Two of the most popular ice cream brands in Brooklyn that are kosher is Klein's ice cream and Mahadran's ice cream. They're like the Ben & Jerry's and Haagen-Dazs of the Jewish religious community. And this time of the year, who doesn't love ice cream? But one year, a couple of years ago, one hot summer, Mahadran's factory had a blackout and lost all power. And hundreds of thousands of dollars of ice cream were melting in the freezers. When the owner of Klein's Ice Cream, a religious Jew, heard this, he immediately called his competitor, the owner of Mahadran, and said, I heard you have a power outage and you have hundreds of thousands of dollars of ice cream melting. Bring it right over to my plant. I'm clearing room in my freezers to store your ice cream till your power gets back on. In this week's Torah portion, we have the mitzvah of V'achalta v'savato v'rachtas Hashem Elokecha. God says when you eat a meal and you're satiated and you're satisfied, you should bless Hashem. And this is known as Birkat Hamazon, or grace after meals. But there's something we do when we say grace after meals that we don't do by any other blessings. While we're all familiar with a minyan, a quorum of 10 people to pray, blessings don't require a minyan. We have so many blessings in Judaism, but none of them require a minyan. However, when we eat together, we don't bless God individually. We always do what is called a zimun. Zimun means to invite. We invite others to join us in the grace after meals. And if we have a minimum of 3 people or more, we say Rabotai Nevarech or Rabosai Mevel Benshin. Rabbis, masters, friends, colleagues, friends, join us. We would like to say grace after meals, and everyone responds, may the name of God be blessed. And then after this responsive calling out to one another, we begin Baruch Atah, the grace after meals. And Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, the great German scholar, asks, why is it that only by grace after meals do we recite the introductory welcoming prayers to invite everyone around the table to join in the blessings after the meal? Why don't we just each bless God individually? And he gives a very beautiful answer. He says, in order to earn a livelihood, we all have to unfortunately be competitive. In the world of business, there's competition, and everyone has to look out for themselves. Now, of course, we should always be collaborative. We should always look for ways to help one another. Because as the owner of Klein's Ice Cream showed us, you're not going to lose any business by helping your competition. Whatever God has intended for you to earn, you're going to earn. And nobody will diminish any of your earnings. On the contrary, by doing chesed, kindness, and tzedakah, charity, you will increase your profit margin. But the nature of the world is that business is all about me. It's a little bit self-centered. It's how do I get ahead of my competitors? So therefore, when we eat our bread and we recite our grace after meals, we have to change our mindset. And we have to change our mindset from me to we. We have to go from competitive mindset to a collaborative, inclusive mindset. And therefore, we invite others to join us in the grace after meals to say, God, I thank you not only for my blessings of food and sustenance, but that I'm also able to share my food and sustenance with others, with those who are needy. And that when God grants you the blessing of earning a livelihood, especially if it's a plentiful livelihood, realize it comes, as the Birkat Hamazon says, from God's outstretched, generous hand. And therefore, be happy to spread your blessings around, to share your food and your sustenance with others. About 2 years ago, there was a Jew in California, a wealthy Jew and a renowned philanthropist. His name was Saul Teichman. He passed away at the age of 90 years old. And he was renowned throughout the world, but especially in Los Angeles, as being an open-hearted, generous man. People would come to his home every hour of the day and night for charity, and nobody left empty-handed. Everyone left with not only a generous check, but with love and blessings and encouragement. And someone once asked him, Mr. Teichman, what do you attribute your generosity to? Where did you learn such extreme kindness and generosity that you help every single person who comes knocking on your door? And he said, let me tell you a story. He says, I was born in 1927 in Munkach. And then in 1930s, the Hungarian took control of Munkac, and it ultimately was conquered and taken over by the Nazis. And in 1944, my parents were killed before my eyes, and I was sent off to the concentration camps. I was 17 years old. He said, I arrived in Auschwitz, and there was a long line, the selection, as they were waiting to process the poor Jews who just came on the cattle cars from Hungary to Auschwitz, and they were being taken into the camps. And he says, here I was alone, an orphan, without a father, without a mother, and I'm standing in line alone, 17 years old, and a man with a white beard came over to me and said, what's your name? He said, my name is Saul Teichman. He said, how old are you? He said, I'm 17 years old. He says, no. When were you born? He says, 1927. He says, no, you were born in 1925 and you're 19 years old. He says, what do you mean? I know I was born in 1927. I'm 17 years old. He says, no, you're making a mistake. I was at your bris, and you were actually born in 1925 and you're 19. And he said, but I know for a fact I was born in 1927. He says, your father made a mistake. You misheard the date he told you. I was at your bris. You were born in 1925. How old are you? He said, I'm 17. He says, no, say after me, I'm 19 years old. He says, okay, when were you born? 1925. How old are you? I'm 19 years old. He says, remember, when you're asked how old you are, say you were born in 1925 and you're 19 years old. Saul says, as the line went forward, he finally came face to face with the evil Nazi, Dr. Joseph Mengele. And Dr. Mengele looked at him and said, young man, when were you born and how old are you? And he said, I was born in 1925 and I am 19 years old. And the evil sadistic Dr. Joseph Mengele took his right thumb and showed to the right, which means to life, to the barracks. He says, I went into the barracks and I survived the concentration camps. He says, I only found out later that anyone who was born in 1927 or later, who was 17 or younger, Dr. Mengele, Yamach Shemo, cursed be his name, would motion with his left thumb to the death immediately, without any chance of survival. He said, Saul Teichman said, until this day, I have no idea who this man was. He was like an angel. He appeared out of nowhere and literally saved my life. He says, all I can think about is that I would not be here, my family would not be here, if not for this man, this angel who came and saved my life. And he says, therefore, my life's mission is to be an angel for others, to be there to help save the lives of others, to help provide life and sustenance for those in need, and to reciprocate that kindness that was bestowed upon me by that mysterious man. Every human being has had angels along their path in life that have helped them. And therefore, when we come to recite the Birkat HaMazon, we never recite it alone. We try to welcome as many people to sit around together with us, to remember that when God gives us sustenance, when God gives us the wherewithal, we must spread it out and share it with others. We may have earned our money through thinking about our personal gain, but ultimately, when God grants us that success, we must recognize from where it comes, and we must spread it out and share it with as many people as possible.